So lesson 9 is about modules. Before we can even start discussing modules, what we want to do is we want to create a folder on our computer where we can access it from any place, just like you can any other Python library. In other words, if you put a file with Python code in this folder that we're about to discover or we're about to put into our path, then that code can be read from anywhere on your computer. So that's what we want to do. The reason why we want to do modules, and I just cover that real quick, is it's for functions that you're going to reuse. For example, if you're going to create, like later on, we're going to create this CSV reader, and anytime that I want to read a CSV file, I want to be able to access that thing. So I want to import my from whatever file we call it, import CSV reader, and we want to be able, and maybe that's the function that we're going to call it. I don't know, but we will create it here in a few minutes. But for anywhere on my computer, I want to be able to access that file. So that's the idea: is you create the code in one place, and you're not copy pasting it into another file, and then trying to remember all the places that you use that code. So again, if you improve the function, if you improve some kind of functionality, you don't have to go back and redo it everywhere that you copy pasted it. And that improved functionality exists in all your programs now. So again, you have to make sure that it reaches back and does things. Will allow you to only have to update the program only once. So what I call what the book calls the golden rule is have only one, and only one. That doesn't mean make sense. How about have one and only one version of a function that you intend to reuse? Just have it in your computer one place, and just keep reusing that function as much as possible. If you improve it, just make sure that it also works on previous versions. In other words, the new version doesn't do something different than what the old version does. And if you do a new version, then call it something different. Okay, so what we want to do today, or in this video, is we want to create that folder that we can get to. So let's pop up some code here. Let's just remember, me restart the kernel here just to make sure that we haven't done anything yet. And remember, if I want to do the square root, that Python's base functions doesn't have a square root function, but remember in math it did. So this is what we're trying to get. So from math, so notice where I'm at in my folders. I'm sitting here at users, grover.laporte, and we know that the math library is not in this folder. So from math, import square root 9, and now we can do square root of 7, and we get a number. Okay, so this functionality here from anywhere, regardless of where we're at, is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a folder that I can put code in. Now let's just realize, and I haven't mentioned it yet, but this API Yahoo, I've had to update several times because of the changes that Yahoo made in their API. That's just a way that you can talk to the internet. That's all this API, and we will go through some API stuff later on in the course. But what I've done is I've created this function called getData that will reach out and use Yahoo's API, and it will grab any stock that we want, and then it will return it into a CSV format. So I want to be able to use this thing regardless, or wherever I'm at, and I don't want to have to remember that I changed getData from one place to the next. So I put it in this API Yahoo module and put it inside my module folder. And the problem is it can't find it right now, right? So I would have to go here and then find out where this thing's at. So I would have to do this every single time, or I would have to put the address inside here. So I would have to tell it where it's located at, and then API Yahoo, which is sort of annoying. So the intent of this video is, at the end of the day, is for us to be able to do that without having to. So in other words, I want to be able to do this just like I did from the math. I want to be able to do that with any of my code as well, and that's the idea behind here. Okay, so we haven't created the folder yet, so let's go ahead and create a folder. So you can see that mine's already created. My folder is already created. It's called the Python modules. It doesn't matter what you call it. You don't have to call it that. It's not. This is not some kind of secret thing that Python knows to use. It can be whatever folder you want to call it. So I called mine Python modules. And if you double clicked in here, you can see this API yahoo.py. And we already know that if I tried to access that sucker, it won't work. So I can't grab the get data function out of that API yahoo.py. And I have some other ones in here as well, but I want to be able to do that from anywhere. So I have to add it. I had to add this Python modules to my path. And the way that you do that is first run this code, and this is in your Jupyter Notebook. So if you go grab these 2 lines of code, this pp print is just pretty print is what it's called. And then all it does is it takes any list and it just prints that one row at or one column at a time. So one thing, and then it goes down to the next line, and then another. After every comma, it has a new line in it. That's all it does. And in here, you should see something that looks like this. So something that looks like users, and then .ipython. That is where we want to find what's called our startup folder. So inside the startup folder, code will be run every single time that we bring up Spider. And don't let me forget the double slashes here, because I just did that a few minutes ago and I forgot my double slashes and it didn't work. So let's go to, so we're going to start off at C. So we're going to start off here at C. So come down here, find the Windows, just click on that guy, and then go to users, right? Because that's the next thing there. So users, and then I find Grover.Laporte, and then I find .ipython, and then inside here you'll see this profile default, and then inside there you'll see this thing called startup. And look at the README file. You don't have to do this whenever you're doing it on your computer. You should have the same README file in there. But if you looked at it here, it basically says, hey, this is, I don't know how to make this bigger. Control. So what it's telling you is that this is the IPython startup directory. And what it'll do is it'll run any Python or .py or .py or IPY files in this directory prior to any code being run. So what we're going to do in this file or in this folder is we're going to put, and it doesn't matter the name of it either. I forget what I'm going to call it. We'll figure that out here in a few minutes. But we need to put 2 lines of code in a file in this folder so that it gets run and puts the location of our modules in that folder. All right. So again, in your copy. So in your Jupyter Notebook, you'll see these 2 lines of code, and I'm not sure what I put in here, but it's basically we got to go find the location. So we'll modify this here in a second. So let's start a new file. You can do whatever you can call this whatever you want to. You can put any kind of document strings in here you want, but it's just going to be these 2 lines of code. And then we got to go, so we got to put a real location here so Python will know where to go to look at it. So the way you do that is just pull up your Python module, right? So mine was in my documents, and if you looked at it, double click it, I can copy the address as a text. So you can copy the address or you can copy the address as a text. I think this is probably the one that you want to use. So copy the address as a text, and then we're going to drop that right into here. Paste. All right, so currently this will not work. What you have to do, because Python uses, for its strings, it uses this backslash operator as an sort of an operator. I don't know if you remember, like \t was a tab and a backslash n is a new line and all that stuff. So what you have to end up doing is putting 2 backslashes for each one of the. Then when you really want a backslash, you got to put 2 backslashes in. So that's all I'm doing here. And another thing is I usually care about this line here because it doesn't conform with PEP 8. But again, we're not going to pull this thing up and look at it anymore, so I'm not too concerned about that. Oh, and you have to import sys, so don't forget to import sys. That's why this little doohickey here was giving you a yellow thing. So actually 3 lines of code. 3 lines of code include this guy wherever it was located at on your computer. make sure you put the double backslashes in, and then save it. So file, save as, and now we got to go find that place, right? So this is going to be opened wherever my last file was opened. So now I just got to go find that place again. C users, my username .python profile startup. So again, check it out. Call it whatever you want to. We could leave it untitled if you want to, but I don't like that because it's not very good naming. So module, not module, yeah, module location. I don't know. So it sounds like as good as any. And then here we'll save this. We will get out of this one. So now once you've put that in there, you want it to run that. So it's not going to run that until you exit out and get back into your IDE or Spider. So I'm going to exit out. I'm going to bring it back. All right, and it says that a new one's available, and I don't need this code anymore. But now what I want to do is I want to, hopefully when I hit the button here, this runs. So, and yes, it did. You see that, right? So now when I hit from API Yahoo import get data, well, let's find out what get data does. So help get data, bunch of information in there. Help on function get data module. So get data symbol, date from, date to, examples of symbol. So it needs to look like this. I think this is Ford. You can go on the internet and just find out some whatever stock you're interested in. Let's go with get data, Apple. We want it go from here. I'm going to copy this down here. Look at that. Got code right down there. Control V. So this goes from 2016 to 2020. I don't know. Let's make this a little bit earlier. Let's go from 2000. Let's make it a big file. And what this thing is going to do is going to dump it into wherever you have, wherever this is. So if you don't want it to dump it into that space, which is probably not real smart, let's go ahead and change it to wherever we're located. 21.1. Of course, we are right now in modules, and then we're just dump it in this data file. So I'm going to grab this data in F9, and it says downloaded. And then we can come back and we can do, so it just did it. It grabbed all of that data from 2000, 2020, and we're going to grab Ford data too. And I don't know, let's pull up stock symbol for Amazon. Then we'll do Amazon. Amazon's got to be doing well right now. What is it? The AMZN. So AMZN. So we'll do the same thing for AMZN. All right. So now what you can do is pull up our. So it's not in here. It's not in data, right? It went to wherever we were located. So documents. Come and find that location. We were in lesson 9, and then there was some data in there. You can see all of the data that was downloaded. IBM, it looks like we did it last semester, so I'll delete that. And then 626262, which if you look at my computer is 62, and you can pull up, I don't know, let's pull up Amazon stuff. And you can see it starts from 2000, and control enter or control down. It goes until, oh, did I miss? It goes until 2020. Let me pull up. Oh, I only did January 2020. Tell you what, let's delete out of here. So I want to replace that because I don't like that. I want to go from 6.1. I meant to go from 6.1. So I thought it was 1.6, but it's the month and then the day. So I was wrong about my assumption. I guess I should have looked at this a little bit harder. And then so we did Amazon, we did Ford, F9, and we did, see how easy this is to just snag data, all right? So that's another class that we need to talk about later on, is how to just snag data pretty easily from the internet. And Apple. All right, this tells you sort of what's happening in here. I printed those off in my get data function, and we can save, and we can pull it up again. Data, and it just got saved, and you can pull up, let's see, Amazon again this time in a CSV file, and then control down, and you can see that was the last day that we actually traded. So it doesn't look like it traded on the first, or at least it doesn't have the information on the first, so it just doesn't give that data. And you can see it opened at 81, and you can see if you look down here, if you bought Amazon back in the day, you probably made a nice little penny on it, because now it's at 24.15, which is not horrible. Okay, well, that's all I got for today. We will, or at least this video, not today, but we will get back and we will start using this data. So what I want to do next is I want to create a function that will read in this data and into. And we've talked about this already with the text file, but we're going to do it with the CSV file. I'm going to make a file or a function that does that, and we're going to keep it in our modules folder.